Well, good evening, my friends, and welcome back to another episode from the Cumberland Outdoorsman. Today I'm going to take on a little bit of a challenge. It was about 2 years ago when I made a video regarding survival skills in a wild, remote area. Say you get separated from your group, whether you're a hunter or a fisherman or a backpacker, maybe just a hiker. You get turned around, suddenly you're out in a wild area where you are not really sure how to get out right away. You know, you think you can find your way out, but nighttime is coming. Maybe it's late fall, winter time where it's really cold, or even early spring. You know, you may be turkey hunting in the mountains somewhere and you get turned around and you just simply can't find your way out this evening. You think that maybe tomorrow, with daylight approaching, you can get out and hike your way out. So one of the main aspects of a survival situation, especially in an emergency situation where you might be faced with not only spending the night, but maybe even a few days or an entire week out in the wilderness before you can find your way out or before you get rescued. You know, it's your responsibility. Well, one of the things that I usually carry with me if I go on a trip like that, even around here, you know, where I know the area pretty well, is a day pack. And in my day pack, I have a survival kit. I have cordage. I have extra little packets of coffee or tea or whatever, maybe some hot chocolate, a little bit of food, a little bit of extra food, you know, maybe a candy bar or two. I have an emergency first aid kit. And there's a number of things that you can carry along with you. A compass, matches, but also a fire starting kit. And this is what I usually carry with me. This is more dependable than a lighter or matches, because if either one of those gets wet, you're going to have a hard time starting a flame. But with this magnesium block and this little fire stick here, I can make a fire very quickly. So what would happen if I lost this? You know, and I don't have any matches, I don't have any other way of starting a fire. Well, I think I'd have to resort to using what I have on hand. And like I say, I usually carry some cordage with me into the woods, and like 550 cord or something like this right here. You know, this is something that I carry where if I'm hunting out of a tree stand or whatever, I can pull my bow or my gun up into the stand. And there's just so many uses for cordage. And in today's challenge, this will play a major role. So what we're going to do today is try to produce a bow drill kit so that I can start an ember and get a fire started. Okay, so we're going to try and find some materials that I have on hand right here. This is an eastern forest. It's summertime, it's damp, it's humid. So I may have a little bit more of a challenge ahead of me than I would have expected otherwise, but I think I can round up some materials to be able to produce that fire. So let's get started. Okay, right here we've got what I think is a dead cedar tree, and this is suspended above the ground. As you can see, it should be dry enough. No, that's not a cedar. I believe that may be that could be a hickory or maybe an elm. Either way, I'm looking for something to make a spindle out of. And it needs to be about the size of my thumb. And it needs to be straight. But it doesn't need to be so brittle that it'll break real easily. See, that's too brittle. That broke too easy. So let's keep looking. It's best not to pick up anything off the ground, because usually the ground will have moisture in it, and the moisture will wick into the wood. Like this piece right here, this hickory right here, that would be great. I think this has been up off the ground for a while, and I think I could probably make a spindle a nice straight little spindle out of this section right here. So we'll gather that up and save this for our spindle. If it doesn't work, we can always try something else. Now in my day pack, I always carry this Gerber saw. I've got two of these. I've got two day packs, but I always carry a saw in one of them anyway. You know, I don't absolutely have to have this, but it sure makes it a lot nicer and quicker to be able to cut through this wood. So let me go ahead and get started here. We'll start on this end. You know, getting through this wood is a lot easier with a saw like this. I don't feel any moisture on there. I use my lips a lot of times because your lips are more sensitive than your fingers. And usually if there's any moisture there, you'd be able to sense that with your lips. All right, that's fairly straight. You know, it may have a little bit of a bow in it right there, but I can whittle a lot of that out as I'm forming the spindle. So let me go ahead and start doing that. This is just a really quick video because we need to get this fire going kind of in a hurry, really. This is late afternoon. I've got about 2 hours of sunlight left. And incidentally, if you didn't catch that, let me give you a little tip. The width of your hand right here indicates approximately an hour. So you see the sun up there, and you want to hold the top of your hand right at the edge of the sun, and then you see where the bottom of your hand is, and then you can move the top of your hand to be even where the bottom of your hand was, and that gives you a rough idea about how much time you've got left in hours. So that's a quick way of figuring out how much time you got left to complete a task. So I'm going to whittle this down to a fairly centered point. Doesn't need to be real long. And one of these spindles can last for several attempts at making a fire. Anyway, I'll go ahead and get this whittled off pretty quickly. And by the way, that's the same knife that I've been using for months now. I carry it at work and carry it with me. It's one of those Walmart $10 knives, and I'll tell you what, I'm really impressed with them. As you can see, it's making quick work of that hard piece of hickory there. Okay, I got that down to a pretty good point there, and I think it's pretty well centered. Let me get this all formed up, and I think I can make do with this. One end you want sharp, or fairly sharp. The other end, you want it rounded. You want to go all the way around and keep it centered up, you know, just like that. You don't really want a round end, but you want some semblance of that. So just keep whittling all the way around. Until you get something about like this here. Got a knot right there, but that's not really going to matter. That may actually add a little strength to it. That should rotate fairly well. You don't want it to wobble a lot, you know, you want it to drill down into your fireboard. And that's the next thing we're going to get. Let's look around here, see what we can come up with. Okay guys, as you're out looking for the components or the parts that you need for your bow drill kit, also keep in mind the other things you're going to need. You're going to need a tinder bundle, and you're going to need something to start the fire with after you get a flame going in that tinder bundle. Well, right here I've got a cedar tree, and if you look right down here, let me show you. You see this loose bark hanging off? That right there is excellent for a tinder bundle. Okay, you can start a fire with that very easily. You can see where a deer has already rubbed his antlers against that. So what I like to do is I just take my saw and I'll scrape that tree just like that. That's some great material for tinder bundle. That'll light up really quickly. Okay? So let me gather a little bit more of this stuff up, and we'll carry it along with us as we gather what we need to make our fire, our bow drill. Comes off really easily if you've got a saw like this. So, you know, if what you're finding has a damp feel to it, this really doesn't, maybe a little bit, put it in your pocket and carry it around with you, because the warmth from your body heat will dry that up within about an hour, and sometimes it may take a while to find these things that you need. Anyway, we're going to look down here and see if we can find another cedar tree that may be down where we can make our fireboard. Okay, here's a piece that would probably do well to make a fireboard out of. Okay, I think we got that figured out. Okay guys, quite often these big cedars like this will have these dead branches on the lower end of them. And I found one here that looks like it would make another good spindle. So I'm going to get it while I'm here. That looks fairly straight. Looks like it'll make a good one. Well friends, I got all the wood here that I need gathered up, I think, to get my fire started. But while I was walking up this hill, I ran across something interesting, and there it is, laying right here by this log, the stag beetle. Now, he's already expired, but that just goes to show you find all kinds of interesting things when you're out here in the woods. That's a pretty good sized one there. That's one of the biggest ones I've ever seen. But anyway, we'll go ahead and get this wood up to our campsite. I've already found a bow to drive the drill with. All we got to do now is get it all cut out and ready to make our fire. So let's head on up to the campsite. Okay, I've got my bow already assembled here. This is just a branch that I picked up off the ground, but it's shaped just about right. And it's good length. I got a piece of 550 cord that I took out of my day pack and got it attached here. And then here I've got a green piece of privet. This stuff grows all over the place around here. It's really invasive. So we're going to baton this in half and use it as my pressure board to put pressure down on my drill. And I found a nice piece of red cedar. This is red all the way to the outside. We're going to experiment a little bit with this and also the other piece that I found down in the creek bottom for our fireboard. So let me go ahead and baton these and get started. All right. Let's see if we can't baton this in half here. Got a few little knots down there at the bottom. All right. And it seems to be doing the job. That wood feels a little bit damp in there. But either way, that might work. See if we can finish the rest of this. All right. Now we got it split all the way down. We don't have to split this end because we're going to be using this right here to put our foot on. But I do want to cut this down a little bit more right here. That's just a tad thick right there. That may be good enough right there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make a divot right there. And I'm going to start burning this in a little bit. First I got to baton this in half. Okay, we're going to be using this. This is green wood right here. We'll make a divot right there in the center of that. And the reason you want green wood, you don't want that getting really hot, because you need some lubrication up there for that to rest against. Okay? Just like that. Alright, let's see if we can get a hole burned into this piece of cedar here. Maybe we'll get an ember here, I don't know. It feels a little damp to me, but I have to try it and see. Okay, I'm starting to see a little smoke there. It's starting to burn in. Okay, now I've got a hole burnt into that board, and what I want to do is save all that dust that I just collected from burning out that hole. And what I want to do is cut a little V-notch right here. So this is where our saw comes in handy once again. Something like that right there. Okay, what you want is for that dust to fall down into that notch and ignite at the bottom. So I'm going to put this board right over our little dust pile that we've gathered. And now we'll see if we can't get an ember going. Put your foot on top of your fireboard. And we're just going to start slow. No sense in wearing yourself out. Not a lot of pressure, just and it's starting to build in that little notch right there. Okay guys, in the woods right next to my house, I found a dead ash tree that was suspended, still up in the air. That means that the branches have been off the ground, so they shouldn't be saturated with moisture. And right here it is. And as you can see, there's all kinds of possibilities. You know, there's a nice straight piece for a spindle. We can whittle that down. I always wanted to try white ash because it's really good in fireplaces. And here's plenty of material right here to make a good fireboard right here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out a few of these pieces here and gather that up with the rest of what we've gotten, and we'll see if we can't get a successful fire going with some of this white ash. I've never tried it before, but I know that it works good in a fireplace or in my wood burning stove, and also at campfires. Great firewood. So maybe this will do the trick for us. Let's give it a try. I think this right here will do really well. One thing about ash is it's very hard. This is what they make baseball bats out of. Okay, my friends, I'm going to try and make a fireboard out of this piece of ash. Earlier I was not successful with this piece of cedar because if you look, you see that red colored wood there? That's got a lot of resin in it and it kind of gums up a little bit. I have in the past gotten a successful ember out of cedar, but I really want to try this ash and see what it does. Just give it a try. Who knows? Nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? So let me go ahead and baton this. That's the thing about ash, it splits really nicely. Feels like it's got a little bit of moisture in it, but we're going to try it anyway and see what happens. I don't know. With that, we'll go ahead and make our divot here. See if we can get it burned in. Let me get down here. That might be a little too tight on my bowstring, but I just want to see if this will burn in good. Well, not too bad. Okay, my friends, I was not successful with the ash this time because I suspect it's a little bit too damp still. And the cedar I was almost successful, but not quite. So I'm going to try a piece of hickory. This wood is a little bit more degraded, and maybe it'll do the trick this time. We're going to find out here in a minute. I've already got a little notch burned in there. Sharpen this down just a little bit for my bearing block. All right. Some of this dust up there in that notch. Maybe this time. Put a little lube on my bearing block there by spitting on it. All right, here we go. Move my leg out of the way here. It's smoking. Give it a little bit of time here. It's still smoking, folks. I'm going to let it sit for a minute and let it smolder. All right. Plenty of time right here. Okay, as you can see, that ember right there is still smoldering away. Note how black that dust is around the ember. No need in getting in a hurry right now. I'm going to go ahead and transfer that ember to my tinder bundle. And we have fire. We'll take our shavings where we whittled out our board and everything. All right, now we got a fire started. Now just add your little sticks as you go, and you can build the fire on up from there. And that's a fire from a bow drill. Okay? So after a few attempts, first with the cedar, which I almost got a fire going, and then with the white ash, which I would have gotten a fire going, only it's still a little too damp. And then I found a really dry, degraded piece of hickory, and I was able to successfully get a fire going with that. Right there, okay? Okay folks, we got the little fire started using a bow drill. I've always wanted to do this on camera, and after 3 attempts, one with the red cedar, then with some white ash, and then I looked right over here next to the campsite and I found this old degraded piece of hickory, and I just sawed it off on each end with my Gerber saw, which I keep in my day pack. And then I split the side down. You want about a 1/2 inch like that right there. And I made a bow with just a piece of oak that I found in the woods. It's already bent like that. It lended itself really well. And then a piece of this cordage that I keep in my day pack. And of course, my pocket knife. And I was able to whittle out what I needed to. I got me some dry tinder from a cedar tree. That's cedar bark right there. And after a few attempts, I got a fire going. So now we still have enough time to get this fire roaring, really build it up, and make camp. I can build a little shelter or just something to lean against a tree to keep me warm and keep my fire going. I can boil water or cook food or whatever I want to do, but at least I was able to fulfill this challenge and make a fire using a bow drill right there. Okay, just for kicks, I made another one, and as you can see, we got a nice little ember going there. Well, anyway, folks, I just wanted to show you all and demonstrate and take on this little challenge that even here in the southeastern United States where it's damp, put this thing out before it smolders all my tinder bundle away, but anyway, you can successfully build a fire with the materials you have on hand right here in the woods. A bow that you can easily make. This one here I made out of a bent piece of oak that I found, and my cord, my paracord, and then this dry piece of hickory, my bearing block, and a spindle. And I'm not very practiced at this, but I wanted to take on the challenge just to show all my viewers out there that in case you lose your matches or your lighter or your fire starter kit like the one I have, all is not lost. We still have daylight. We still have time to build up a fire. I can start another fire quite easily with this right now, just a few seconds. And now that I have the right materials, you know, I tried different materials to see what would work best, and it's just a matter of finding what will work best for you. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thanks a lot for coming along, and remember, if you like to go hunting, fishing, camping, shooting, hiking, no matter what your outdoor pursuit happens to be, I hope you enjoy it as much as I do, but also hit that like button, smash the bell icon, and subscribe. That way you'll know when more videos like this one will be coming your way. So until next time, y'all take good care of yourselves, get out there and enjoy the great outdoors. And if you like these survival skills and if you want to see more of them, just leave a comment below and I'll see what else I can bring you. So until next time, like I said, y'all take care of yourselves. I'll see you.